Hello everyone, welcome to Lockdown Civil. Today we talk about Korean War and Sino-U.S. relations. And we know that Japan surrendered in 1945 and Korea was occupied separately by the Soviet and the American Army along the 38th parallel. In autumn of 1947, the UN passed a resolution that a free election would be held in Korea and foreign troops and have to leave after the establishment of new government. On August 15, 1948, the Republic of Korea was established in the south. And on September 9th, North witnessed the founding of People's Democratic Republic of Korea. On January 12, 1950, and during a news brief, the U.S. State Secretary Acheson drew a line on the map with a pencil about the U.S. defense perimeter in the Pacific. He studied from the Aleutian Islands at the north down to Japan and the Philippines, and excluding Taiwan and the Korean Peninsula. On June 25, 1950, the Korean War erupted. U.S. President Truman ordered MacArthur provided full support to South Korea, and the UN Security Council passed a resolution that in absence of the Soviet UN ambassador Yakov Malik, with MacArthur as supreme commander of the UN forces. On September 15th, the U.S. Army landed at Yuncheng. And on October 19th, Chinese People's Volunteer Army crossed the Yellow River, which changed the situation dramatically. Korean War was first the civil war of Korea, but in the circumstances that a two blocs confrontation, it was regarded by Americans as a sign of Russian and Chinese global expansion, even the beginning of the Third World War. Then we'll see the miscalculation of America to China. As on June 29, 1950, during the meeting of the U.S. National Security Council, George Kennan warned to keep an eye closely on China's next step, because the Soviets might force China to send troops to Korea, even if China was unwilling. John Davis believed China would not take the nuts from the fire for the Soviets. Most American analysts didn't believe that China would join the war, for American engagement in Korea made no threat to China. After U.S. Army succeeded in landing at Yuncheng in September 1950, the White House and the Pentagon were overjoyed with the victory. But MacArthur kept heedless to China's warning and insisting on crossing over 38 parallels to the north, approaching the border of China. In CIA analysis October 1950, China would be under great burden of economy if it joined in the war, and would have trouble for Sino-U.S. relations and its seat in UN. American government doubted China's capacity and resolve in absence of Air Force and Navy, and even China joined the war, it would be useless, for China's transportation and logistics would be destroyed by U.S. Air Forces. In Acheson's view, China had nothing to bargain, and Washington should keep on going and disregard China's warning. And then we'll see China's decision. The Korean War was a great challenge to the new China. Joining in or not to the war was a very tough issue even to the Chinese leader Mao Zedong. On October 1st, 1950, China received a telegram from Stalin and Qin Il-sung for military assistance to North Korea. Next day, Chinese leaders held a meeting for discussion, and most of them insist to be cautious. The reasons were as follows. First, China had been in war for over 2 decades, and the economy was too feeble to afford for another big war. Second, the large gap between China and America in military. For America was the #1 superpower then, and it had massive army, navy, and air forces, formidable industry, and atomic bomb. And then Chinese army has never engaged with US troops before, but if it failed, China would be dragged into a battlefield. Then some supporters believed that the US army came to the door of China like 3 daggers stabbed to China from 3 different directions, from Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam. America might wage war at any time, and China would better fight sooner than later. Then America was stronger than China, yet Chinese people were never intimidated. As a saying, a punch in time saves 9. The third one is US superiority in military may be counterbalanced by its lack of readiness, its long distance, and poor morale. The safety of the neighbor was the same to ourselves. To war was better than not to. On October 8, 1950, China mobilized the volunteer army and joined the war on October 19th. And within 1 week, almost 260,000 troops that had been deployed to Korea. On October 28th, the troops of both sides were engaged in crossfire, to which US government made another misjudgment. It was believed it's just a small skirmish and will disappear and threat. MacArthur was overconfident of the victory, and he believed Soviet would not join the war. China could do nothing to the war. And on November 28th, Chinese army suddenly ambushed the American troops and pushed them back south of 38 parallels. Took over Pyongyang on December 6th, and then the city of Seoul several weeks later. Since then, the war kept in stalemate. Then the relations of MacArthur and Truman in the war. MacArthur was born in January 1880s in a family of military tradition in Arkansas. In 1903, he graduated from West Point as the first in the rank. And in 1919, he was appointed as the president of the West Point. 1930, MacArthur was promoted as U.S. Army Chief of Staff and oversaw American military transformation and reform from tradition to modern. In 1937, MacArthur retired from the active service and was recalled in 1941 after Pearl Harbor raid. Then Japan attacked the Philippines and defeated the U.S. Army. MacArthur escaped with a torpedo boat to Australia. On April 9, 1942, about a total 75,000 American and Philippine troops surrendered to Japanese army at Patton Peninsula, and about 15,000 were killed on the way to the prisoner of war camp, and another 25,000 died in a camp within the 2 first months. During the Second World War, MacArthur and President Roosevelt remained in good relations. Yet it was another different story between MacArthur and President Truman. In MacArthur's mind, Truman was just a wishy-washy politician, a country bumpkin, happened to succeed presidency. For Truman, MacArthur was a coward in vanity, even though he got a lot of medals. On October 15, 1950, Truman flew to Wake Island in the Pacific to meet MacArthur, which was believed more political for the sake of a midterm election in November. Truman initially planned a meeting in Hawaii, yet MacArthur insisted Wake Island, and Truman had to go further. Wake Island is 2,298 miles west of Honolulu. It was taken by Japan in December 1941. On October 5, 1943, About 98 U.S. prisoners of war were machine gunned by Japanese army. And in September 1945, the island was retaken by America. When the two met at the airport, MacArthur shook hands with Truman without salute. Truman greeted first. How are you, General? Nice to meet you. So well known for long. MacArthur answered, hope to see you next time soon. After the city in the meeting, MacArthur took out his smoke pipe and asked Truman whether he minded his smoking. During the talk, MacArthur frequently checked his pocket watch. Later, Truman asked him for lunch together. Yet MacArthur said he had to go back to Tokyo immediately, as if he was busier than the president, which revealed his lack of propriety. In November 1950, U.S. Army suffered retreat in Korea, and Democrats lost in the election. Truman recorded his complaints in his diary. When we met at the airport, MacArthur didn't well button, and his hat was greasy, as if unwashed for over 20 years. He promised the Korean War would be won, and China won't join. At the same time, MacArthur blamed the failure for Washington's interference. MacArthur talked about the all-out war with China, even use of the atomic bomb to China. He openly criticized the White House again and again. On April 11, 1951, he was finally sacked by President Truman. MacArthur was invited to testify in Congress, and he made a farewell speech. The old soldier never die, just fade away. In the hearing, Omar Bradley, chairman of U.S. Army Joint Chief of Staff, didn't support MacArthur's suggestion. He said, Red Army is not the power seeking to dominate the world. Frankly, in our opinion, MacArthur's trying to fight with China would involve us in the wrong war at the wrong place, at the wrong time, and with the wrong enemy. In July 1953, the two sides in Korean War signed armistice. And American General Mark Clark sighed, I got an unworthy honor that I am the first U.S. Army commander who signed the truce that hadn't won in our history, to which I deeply despair. China's joining in and victory in the war restored its confidence as a big power, to which the Chinese people have been proud of, and the rest of the world has shown their respect. For sure, China has paid a heavy price, being blamed as the aggressor and threat to the West. Further Sino-U.S. confrontation and hostility, delay of Taiwan's reunification with mainland China. During the war, Americans saved South Korea and China protected the North. Both America and China met their targets. Only the war intensified their clashes and even entanglement and complexity of Sino-U.S. relations until today. Here comes the end of today's program, and thank you for your watching, and see you next time. Thank you, bye.